A good one.
Yes, that's correct. We are live from Luthuli House, and we do know that it was at this building where President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered his January 8 statement. Now, we do know that the January is the ANC's program for the year ahead, and also there were a number of priorities that the president touched on, and top among those being the country's response to COVID-19, but also, more importantly, the issue of the economic recovery of the country. And now we are joined, we're back here at Luthuli House, and now we are joined by President Cyril Ramaphosa just to unpack some of those issues that he delivered yesterday. President, thank you very much for your time. Let me just get straight to it. Mr. President, you delivered your statement last night, and there was some mixed reaction in terms of how it was received. And there seems to be a general perception that it did not offer anything new. And among those that were unhappy were some of your allies, including COSATU. What would you say, President, was, what would you say the statement offered? What was new in terms of content that the statement offered that we have not heard before?
Well, the statement is a statement of the National Executive Committee, which is crafted from the inputs, the suggestions from the membership of the National Executive Committee. So it is a very important statement that comes from the ANC on January 8th. And obviously we set out 4 priorities. The first one is to defeat COVID-19. And it is an important and current objective or priority, and where we were calling on the people of South Africa to work together on the side of all those forces that are aligned against COVID-19. And the second one was the economy, that the economic recovery should proceed with speed. And the fourth one, as you well heard, is the renewal of the African National Congress as the engine that is meant to implement all these matters. And of course, we focus on our own continent and the world to ensure that there is peace, there's a development as well. So those are the key 4 priorities. And if you look at each one will be able to pick up a number of tasks that we have set out. And now, obviously, out of the cluster of those priorities, people will be looking for some magical wand and something magical. What we are seeking to do is to implement and to deal with the challenges at hand. And COVID-19 is the principal task that we have at hand, and the recovering of our own economy.
Sure.
So all that has to be done. And in doing that, we're hoping that in the end we will improve the lives of our people.
Now, sticking to the topic of COVID-19 recovery, you said that you envisage that we'll have a mass rollout of a vaccine. Do you have an idea, President, in terms of when? I mean, there's been an issue of the costs, and there's been a lot of talk about the Treasury releasing some of the money. Do you have an idea as to when this will be happening? But also, secondly, in terms of the bilateral discussions that you are having, who else are we talking to? We've seen the outcome coming out from the discussions with Serum Institute of India.
Well, in terms of the timing, obviously we want it yesterday. We want the rollout and implementation to happen as soon as possible. We are going to be receiving 1 million doses right now in January, and another 500,000 in February. And the access to our vaccines is going to be multi-pronged. We've decided that our approach to vaccines should be hinged on 4 pillars. The first one is the COVAX, which is the facility that was set up by the World Health Organization, in which we are participating, where countries are required to signify through the payment of a deposit. We have done so, and people are raising issues and complaints that, we didn't pay when we were meant to. Those are just technical and logistical issues. The money has been paid. It's been paid from the Solidarity Fund. And the Solidarity Fund is our South African fund, in which the government has put in money, the private sector, individuals, even political parties. And so, and as far as the timing is concerned, it is going to start being rolled out as we move on. And it's not all going to happen to the 40 million South Africans within 1 month. It is going to be stretched throughout the months.
What timelines do we envisage? I
Oh,
know
we envisage
we're prioritizing
this month
health workers.
And all, of course, we're prioritizing the frontline workers, health workers, and the others, the police, and vulnerable groups, and all that. So all that is going to start happening. And once the first vaccine is administered, we will find that it starts picking up and rolling out. So the second pillar has been the African process that we are involved in. We've set up a task team that is aimed at acquiring all these doses that we need as a continent. We have to vaccinate up to 70%, say between 67 and 70% of the population. It's a huge amount of vaccines. We've already succeeded in acquiring several hundred of millions of vaccines. They are going to start arriving, and the funding thereof is also being arranged.
For the rest of the African continent via the COVAX facility?
Well, also by AVET. AVET is the one that I appointed as chair of the African Union to make ensure that all countries on our continent are treated equally on the same footing. The third approach has been to go to the manufacturers themselves on a bilateral basis. Now, all of a sudden, many vaccines have now become available. They've come through to the market. And so we are going to be using a multi-supplier type of process. We're not going to be focusing on one because the whole world wants these vaccines. So we will be looking, obviously, at those that have greater efficacy and greater effectiveness. And the fourth pillar has been based on our bilateral relations with various governments and countries and heads of state. And we're discussing with our BRICS partners, those that have developed vaccines and are making them available. So those are the four pillars on which we are approaching the vaccines issue.
Now, Mr. President, obviously with vaccines, there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of theories abound. You also touched on it yesterday about these theories that abound, and we now know that actually some ANC leaders have been accused of spreading those theories. Case in point, Councillor Sbu Ngalwa in KZN, who has been spreading false claims, or fact claims about 5G technology, which has led to the destruction of some infrastructure. What we saw from the ANC was him being called in for a discussion. Now, if someone, as the leader, you are saying everyone must actually fall in line and respect and also not spread these rumors, should someone like him not be summarily dismissed?
The rumors and stories and false information and fake news that has been spreading is quite concerning because they are going to weaken our people's hope of this vaccine that is supposed to save lives. And I did make an issue of it in the January 8th statement. The National Executive Committee feels strongly about this as well. And we do want all ANC leaders, and indeed leaders in other spheres, to stop spreading false rumors.
But how would you deal with someone like that, who has readily admitted that he made the claims?
Yeah, no. That is going to be an internal process in the ANC of dealing with colleagues and comrades who do things like that, because we've said whatever we do has to be based on science. It has to be based on evidence, and anything else that is outside of science and real evidence, if you make statement to the contrary, is very dangerous, particularly where it results in many people in our country having great doubt about the efficacy of these vaccines that are being used in a number of countries around the world. So we call on those leaders and people to desist from spreading false information, false rumors, and fake news about these vaccines. And obviously people tend to be skeptical about, any medication. It could be a pain tablet, it could be a headache tablet. People have their own doubts, but it should not be leaders who spread these types of stories without any evidence or real facts.
Now, Mr. President, 2021 is a big political year. It's the local government elections, but also for the ANC, it's a tough year in that the party has its Secretary General in court facing charges of corruption. Last night, you reiterated the resolution on how it deals with people who are charged with corruption. But how should any member of the public take you seriously when you talk tough about corruption, yet as the ANC you seem unable to implement your very own resolution in terms of the issue of stepping aside?
Well, if you listened carefully to what I said, I reiterated our conference decision, which is a very clear conference decision. But the National Executive Committee has also been given the responsibility of developing guidelines. And in many ways, this is the first time that it has happened to us. We are now developing guidelines, and we will be guided by the Integrity Commission and indeed by the decisions that we have taken. So I remain confident that out of those processes, the ANC will take the right decision going forward. So I mean, no doubt about that. Even in challenging times, we always come up with decisions that will take the organization forward, as well as the task that it has to undertake to improve the lives of our people.
But then can you blame someone like me or any other skeptic from not believing that the ANC has that political will, given the fact that the August NEC meeting already gave this task to the NEC, to the officials actually, and the last NEC meeting reiterated the same point. So now it's almost 5 months and these guidelines are not forthcoming. So then the question then becomes, just how serious are you as a party to deal with these perceptions of corruption?
Well, I think the public should realize that we are serious, more serious perhaps now than we've ever been. And these are political processes. Some of these things don't happen overnight, and we need to give them time. And I know that our people want quick action, they want quick implementation. And I am a process-driven person. I believe in process, and I believe that we need to take decisions after due consideration of the processes that we've put in place. Unfortunately, in this regard, the guidelines are being finalized, and they will be presented to the National Executive Committee, which will deliberate.
Is that the next NEC meeting?
Oh yes, it will be the next
That's
NEC meeting.
This month still?
I just forget the date when that is, but it is going to be discussed at the next National Executive Committee. So let's have the patience, and let's give the ANC, which is dealing with difficult matters, as I said yesterday, of renewing itself, of uniting itself. Let us give this organization the time to deal, and the space to deal with all these matters.
So just to be clear, Mr. President, the next NEC meeting of the ANC
is
will
going
have
to discuss this
the
issue.
guidelines.
Yes, it
from
is
the
going to discuss this matter, and we know that it is urgent, so it is going to be discussed.
Okay. No, thank you, President. Now, you talk in the January 8th statement about how the ANC is perceived in terms of the infighting and the trust that it has lost, the public trust that it has to regain. Now, at the same time, we've got the Zuma Commission. And I think it was interesting that the last NEC meeting of the ANC and also the January 8th statement reiterated the party's support for the work that is done by the Zuma Commission. And if I remember correctly, the last NEC meeting did say that leaders of the ANC and members should desist from attacking the commission. Now, Mr. President, we know, you and I both know, that the one prominent person who has attacked the work of the commission is your predecessor, former President Jacob Zuma, who actually sat in that very NEC meeting. Now, if someone like him can come out and publicly attack the commission. I'm sure you'd agree that it is reprehensible for someone of his stature to behave in such a manner.
Well, the Zondo Commission was set up at our own instance. The 54th conference urged the government to set up that commission, and it was duly set up. And the commission is doing its work. And as I said, we must support. It is a commission that we set up. We must therefore support it. And we look forward to its report and its recommendations, which will, as you can expect, be taken seriously. And so therefore we're making a call. It's a broad call on our members that let's live up to the decisions we took, and let us also make sure that we support this commission that should do and finalize its work. And that is where I think we should leave it.
Even besides the fact that you have a former president, not just an ordinary member, a former president who's public about his attack on the commission and then the party. As I'm saying, the optics of this are that you have the ANC that pronounces itself in support of the commission. And that very NEC meeting is attended by a former president who attacks the commission. That's the issue here, President, that I'm dealing with. I agree that the rule and the call is to everyone else. But I think on this particular one, it is quite an important one in terms of how the ANC is perceived to be dealing with these issues.
Well, what we have said, which I repeat and reiterate, is that the commission is ours. We set it up, and we call for it to be set up. We therefore need to support the work that it's doing, and we all eagerly wait for the report to be issued and its recommendations. And we continue with our call that let us give this commission space and the time to do its work.
Now, you've spoken about divisions. You've spoken about how you believe that the ANC must build unity, and the unity project being the running theme that we see in the success of January 8 statements. But one would argue that it looks like that unity project is a bit elusive, given the fact that time and again you get statements from the ANC about how divided, and I would argue actually that the ANC is probably more divided now than it was a year ago or prior. What did you say to that?
Well, we are a political organization which brings together around a common vision and a common mission people from different areas in our country, different strands of thought and so forth. And when we come together, we say, let's focus on that which brings us together, but we must do whatever we do based on key values that were embraced right at the formation of the ANC, which has to do with integrity, honesty, respect, and also being prepared to serve the people of our country. And unity is important. The conference gave me, as president of the ANC, the mandate to unite the organization and to renew the organization. And that is a mandate I remain focused on. Whatever, could be happening to divert us from that, it is a mandate I'm prepared to see to fulfillment. Now, as an organization, sometimes we will have processes that unite us, and sometimes they get loose. And right after conference, there were elements or signs of division. We then closed ranks and got united, and now it has weakened again. And it is for that reason that we continue to call for unity. So organizations, political organizations, go through their own summers and their own autumn and winters, and they rise again and have a wonderful spring and summer. And we will embrace unity, and it's a process that we need to keep stabilizing and consolidating. I have no doubt whatsoever that this organization will be united as we move on. The more we talk about what divides us, the more we will be able to find what unites us and solidify our unity.
And Mr. President, still on the issue of unity, in the statement, as I said earlier, you reiterate the support, the conference resolution on the step-aside rule. And just below that, the statement talks about how the party has to make sure that it guards against the use of money in conferences. And you know that this has been what your detractors within the party have been using. You will also know that there was that article, I think in the Sunday Times in December, where the Integrity Commission of the ANC complains about how you seem to be avoiding accountability on the issue of the CR17 funds, where there's a perception that you are using the legal process to avoid accountability. Do you not believe, just to take this albatross off your neck, that it is important for you, even though there's no rule like that in the ANC, to just be transparent and talk about the fundraising, given the fact that there is no rule that says this is how fundraising should happen?
Well, the issue about the CR17 campaign I addressed extensively. Initially, when the Integrity Commission asked me to appear, I said, I think it would be best, I said, to wait for all these processes. And there were quite a number of processes, court hearings and what have you. And I said, in my humble opinion, I think it is best we wait for all that, and thereafter I then come and give an explanation. And at the time, the chair agreed that yes, that could well be a better way, and it has taken time. And they chastised me in their statement, and I accept the chastisement. It was never an issue of me avoiding and not wanting to do it, because soon after many of the court cases were finalized, I was the one who approached them and said, I now believe that it is time for me to come. And I went and I presented my full account. And they wanted to focus on just the one aspect, which is going forward. Yeah, going forward. How should we avoid issues of money? And even in that, I am the one in the NEC who raised the issue that given what has happened, yes, with CR17, and there were a number of other campaigns, by the way, I said, we need to discuss this matter as an organization, and I'm prepared to bare my chest and my soul and say, this is what happened, and this is how we did things, and where there are shortcomings, where there is wrong, we'll admit it, and that needs to be deliberated upon. So I have no real fear about that issue, and the issue of transparency is there, and I'm quite keen to proceed along that line, because that's what it should be.
But you do agree that there is, in as much as there may have been other campaigns that raise money, we don't know how, that there is a higher level of expectation, given also how your presidency has been perceived by South Africans to have been about cleaning up, that you ought to follow in that particular trajectory, in that you are seen to, one, respect the Integrity Commission, but two, to be accountable, in that if no crime was committed, then you can take the lead and say, this is how I raise money.
And no, indeed, absolutely correctly. I'm prepared to do precisely that, and that's precisely the approach that I want to use. And where I have done wrong, where I've had shortcomings, yes, that should be put on the table, and if I need to be dealt with, very well, because it's important. It's important for us as an organization, for leaders to live up to what we always preach about. And in this regard, there was a delay, which I'm sorry about, and I was chastised. They didn't mince their words, and when they did that, I said, yes, that is the Integrity Commission that we want, that without fear or favor or prejudice, they should be able to deal with whomsoever, including the president himself. So that has happened, and I feel that they should be respected. But more importantly, Integrity Commission must be strengthened so that it can do its work much more robustly going forward.
Now, Mr. President, the issue of corruption. You are dealing with allegations of corruption. We're going to an election year. And we know that the ANC was punished in some of the key metros, Johannesburg being one, Ekurhuleni, although you lead there via coalition, I know it's back in power in Johannesburg, but also Nelson Mandela and Tshwane. And key among the issues that were raised was the issue of corruption and how the ANC is perceived in society. Do you think that the ANC has done enough to convince the voters as we go into this election that it is worthy of their votes in these places?
Well, the issue of dealing with corruption and the issue of renewal and indeed unity is a process. It's not a one-day event. And there are moments when we will get it right, and there are moments where we will get it horribly wrong. And because it is a process, it evolves, it continues, it remains work that needs to be done. Sometimes we'll take detours, sometimes we'll have reversals. We are a living organism. We are not an inanimate type of object. We're an organization that is composed of people, individuals, and so therefore we need to keep heading each other in the right direction, moving forward all the time, even if some of us may want to move backwards or remain standing or take detours. So I remain confident that the people of South Africa realize the challenges that we are having, and we are going to go back to the nation in the next elections, local government elections, and be as open and as transparent as we possibly can be, so that the voters can make an informed choice. And we believe that having identified what the real ailment is, and also having identified the way in which we can correct our ways, the voters of our country will realize our sincerity, our seriousness, and I'm hoping that they will continue investing their confidence and their trust in the African National Congress, which they have already been indicating in the by-elections that we've been having. The ANC has been invested with the trust of people who live in those areas where by-elections happen.
But do you think the party has done enough to deal with corruption?
Oh, no.
To change those perceptions?
No. We have not done enough. As we also admit, we have not done enough. It is work in progress, and we must keep moving forward. And as I said, sometimes there will be stops, there will be reversals, but the objective is to keep moving forward and, yes, clean up and make sure that the ANC of today adheres to the values of the ANC of 109 years ago.
Lastly, President, before we get to the issue of the economy, again on the issue of corruption, there is a cloud hanging over your spokesperson. She took leave of absence a few months ago. She has not been charged for any crime and is not directly implicated in any corruption, yet she's still on, she's on leave. What is the status of Khusela Diko in the presidency, and when will the issue be finalized from your side?
Well, firstly, the SIU is still busy with the process. They have issued an interim report. They are supposed to issue a further report that deals with the matter. She is still on leave, and there are processes which the SIU has said we need to look at and deal with, and all that is going to carry on until we deal with this matter as effectively as possible. She herself is concerned about it, and so am I. So we are going to deal with the matter as clearly and as directly and as effectively as possible. And where there has been lapses or wrongdoing, that will be dealt with without any shadow of doubt.
So effectively, until those processes are completed, she will remain on leave?
Yes, those processes need to be done and completed, and then we will then be able to see how best we move forward, yes.
Okay. Mr. President, on the economy, you announced when we had the hard lockdown, you announced a stimulus package to assist industry. We've pretty much introduced some protocols, restrictions which have impacted some industries. The question there, President, is that will we have another assistance or stimulus package to assist the businesses that are currently still suffering as a result?
We came up with a package of 500 billion, which is unprecedented and it's never been seen in the history of our country, which amounted to about 10% of our GDP. And through that, we look at social relief for those who are on our grant list, and for those who have never been on that grant list, particularly the unemployed, and we've assisted and even extended. Now, we are a country of limited and shrinking resources. Underline, limited and shrinking. Right now, the big hole in our finances is that SARS has not been able to collect up to 300 billion, which is a hefty amount. Our debt level has gone astronomically high. We owe trillions of rands. Our GDP, our deficit is sitting at something like 16%, which is amongst the highest in the world. So all those matters bear down on us. So our own capability is a huge constraint. As I said yesterday, one of the issues that has been put on the table for discussion is a basic income grant, which is a truly wonderful type of assistant measure for unemployed, for poor people, for people who are living way below the poverty line. So ideally, that could well have been a solution, but the resources is the issue. So that's why I said—
So no more money?
No more money. It really is that type of situation, sadly. And COVID-19 having descended on us made things much worse. And so therefore, we need to look at our own financial all these needs in the midst of rising debt. And our debt level is almost 4 trillion rand, and it's a huge debt.
And we know that desperation in terms of society is even bigger. Talking of that basic income grant, Mr. President, you are talking of discussions. Last year you said that, I think you tasked the Minister of Social Development to come up with a document to that regard. And you mentioned in your address yesterday that actually some of those COVID-19 relief fund of 350 is coming to an end. So we have more desperation now in society than ever before. The question then is, why can't you then just implement the basic income grant instead of continuing with the discussions when we know that South Africans, especially the poor, will be in a worse position than they were come the end of this month when that 350 rand comes to an end?
Well, the basic reality is that there are no resources. That's the basic reality. And now we've got to come up with vaccines, which don't come free, which don't fall from a tree. So we therefore also have to have enough firepower to get the vaccines that are going to save lives. So the challenges that we face, frankly speaking, are quite enormous, much more enormous than people care to believe.
But shouldn't we then, President Jan, say then, we don't have money, instead of saying there are other discussions that are coming up?
Well, no, the basic income grant issue is a matter that has to be discussed. It has to be looked at. And we are saying we are going to be looking also at the affordability, whether we can afford. And for us, the basic reality, the stark reality is that we don't have the resources to fund many of the things that we need to fund going forward. So I am really saddened and really sorry that even the COVID relief is going to come to an end.
Quick question, Mr. President. We've seen the infections over the past 2 days grow by over 20,000 a day. Can we expect an address to the nation in the next day or so?
Would you like an address to the nation?
Well, you've done so before, whenever there's been an exponential growth.
We are looking at that, and the National Coronavirus Command Council is going to be meeting. We are going to meet with our provinces as quickly as tomorrow, and thereafter we will make a determination on how best we move forward. And at the right time, that will then be announced to our people.
Mr. President, thank you for your time. There you have it. That is the ANC President, President Cyril Ramaphosa, saying that there may be a family meeting as soon as that the National Coronavirus Command Council is meeting and will make a determination. But I think also, I hope that at home you have enjoyed this interview and that some of the questions that you may have had have been answered. For us at Luthuli House, it's back to you at the studio.